making props with foam cutting tools and Sculpt Nouveau's metal coatings. We're going to create a prop metal piece for part of my rusted wall motif I'm decorating my shop with, using some hot wire foam tools and some Sculpt Nouveau metal coatings. We're going to start by using the scroll saw, which works much like a table saw, but just uses a hot wire to cut through expanded EPS or styrofoam. And we're going to cut down a piece of that. That's about 2-inch sheet styrofoam there. And then I'm going to glue a piece of some foam packing material. And what I wanted to show with this video is how you can use some just scrap pieces of styrofoam to make all kinds of fun things when you mix it with the Sculpt Nouveau metal coatings. Now first we're going to use some of the foam fusion glue to glue this piece down to our other 2-inch piece of styrofoam. And to give you an idea where this scrap came from, I believe this is an end cap for a little binding machine I got at an office supply place. So we're going to stick that down, and once that glue dries, we're going to do a little bit of carving with one of the other hot wire tools. Now we just started carrying these hot wire tools. We've got them available on our web store. They're a great way to quickly carve styrofoam without a lot of mess or without any sanding or anything. And the way it works is you plug in the tool and you turn on the power to the tool, and the tools have an independent little on-off switch on them, but you bend that wire into whatever shape you want to make your cut, and then you throw the little switch there and you're ready to cut. Now what we're going to do is create some little recessed areas to put some bolts. So once our wire heats up, we can just take that end and just cut a little chunk right out of the styrofoam. Now you'll see later we're going to rust this piece, so it doesn't have to be terribly accurate, but we want to give the illusion of a big chunky piece of rusted metal. Now again, keep in mind we can always turn off this tool and reshape that wire to whatever contour we want to cut. And the nice thing about the hot wire approach to cutting styrofoam as opposed to cutting it with a sharp tool or saw is we don't have any mess. We don't have any of the little pellets breaking off. It just cauterizes a nice smooth cut. So there are our little recessed areas. And once we get this carved out the way we want it, and keep in mind we can do as much detailing as we want at this stage. For this we want to keep it fairly simple though. Now once we've carved out our styrofoam design, we're ready to hard coat our foam. Now we can either hard coat this with resin, or we can use the foam coating. Now this is hot wire foam, their foam coat product that you mix with water and stir it up, and it creates a nice brushable consistency mix that you just brush over a part, and it provides a really nice hard coating that can be painted and sanded and whatever you need to do to it. Now the foam coating gives you about 10 or 15 minutes or so to brush this over your foam surface, so you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time to brush this on and not mix up more than you can use in about a 10-minute time span. Now once we've coated our foam part, we let it sit overnight and we have a nice sandable surface, and we can come back in and finish out anything we need to do before we paint it. Here I'm just sanding off some of the brush strokes and any little protrusions sticking out from the brush on process. Once we've sanded our part down, we're ready to glue on some Resin Hardware. And since we're simulating a big chunk of rusted metal hardware of some type, we're going to glue on some of these little Easy Flow 60 resin bolts. And we show the process of making these bolts in one of our other videos. I believe it's the resin casting tips. We showed how to brush metallic pigment into a silicone mold and then pour in Easy Flow 60 to create the look of little galvanized steel bolts. And this is a great way to add a little bit more realism to our part of gluing on these fake wing nuts and these fake galvanized bolts. Just give it more the look of an old metal part. And once we anchor all this down, we're ready to do our paint job. The nice thing about this hard coating, the foam coat surface, paint sticks to it beautifully and hot glue sticks to it beautifully. So it's a great work surface. You don't have to worry about any of your paint chipping or peeling off of this surface. Now ready to apply our paint. We're going to use Sculpt Nouveau's Iron B paint, and this is an acrylic paint that contains actual iron filings, very finely ground, so when we brush this on we'll be able to actually oxidize and rust this part just like real metal. Now our first coating is just a base coating. We just want to brush one uniform coating all over our part. Now we could also spray this to eliminate brush strokes, but we just want to create a very simple part here. So we're just brushing on an even coating and we allow that to dry. It's important that you get a good even base coating, because if for any reason your base coat shows through on the next stage where we do the patina, you don't want it showing through any bare unpainted surfaces when you start to do your patina. Now once that's dried, we want to apply our second coat of paint, and again we're applying the Iron B paint. Now to get a really nice oxidized look, we want to apply this a very generous coating of the iron paint, and then we want to spray on our patinas while this last coat is still wet. Now you'll also notice that I'm stippling this on and I'm not brushing it on. The reason I'm stippling this is we want to remove any of the brush strokes so that when we go to patina this, we don't have the brush strokes making our patina look odd. With the brush strokes will really stand out when it starts to oxidize. So it's always a good idea to stipple on or use a sponge to break up your brush strokes before you do any patina work. So here's our second coat, and we're stippling out the brush strokes, and we're also going to go back in with a paper towel and wipe off any of the excess paint on our bolts. Since we're wanting those bolts to look like they're made of galvanized steel, we don't want the rust to look as heavy over those areas. Now ready to apply our patinas. We've got a green patina, and this is just the light green patina, or you can also use the Tiffany green patina, and we're using the tan patina. And you always want to make sure you shake up the tan patina before you apply it. Otherwise it'll settle out and you won't get as vibrant of an effect there. Now keep in mind we're spraying this on while that second coat is still wet. So we want to get a good mist pattern with our sprayer. It's a good idea to test it down here first, and then give a light spray of that over our piece, and then spray on our tan patina. And what the tan does is just give you a little more of a variation in your rust. As opposed to just a reddish brown rust, you get a little bit more of an orange or a new rust look forming. And there's our part after about 30 minutes. And if you let it sit a little bit longer, it'll continue to oxidize and turn slightly darker. And now here's our finished part, ready to glue up on our wall. And this is my rusted factory wall that is kind of an ongoing project here at Biddy Mold Supply. And there you have it, an easy, simple prop made from simple tools, made from scraps around your shop, and a little bit of Sculpt Nouveau Iron B metal paint. Keep in mind the new foam tools are now up on our web store.